Hi, this is Greg Anderson. I'm the broker at RE/MAX Advisors West. I want to talk today about something that I've seen on the internet. There's been a lot of talk. There's a pretty popular sales and motivation trainer. It's not Tony Robbins. There's this other guy. He's gotten a lot of buzz on social media, and Business Insider just picked up a video of him talking about what a horrible idea it is to buy a house and what a great idea it is to rent a house. Now, in fairness to him, his premise is if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to buy rental properties. Completely different topic, love to talk about that, but his basic premise was rent versus own. So let's just kind of spend a little time and kind of play around with the numbers. Let's see what that looks like. One of the things he mentioned is, in 5 years, if you want to be able to move, you got more liquidity, you've got that freedom. So let's figure out what that costs. We're going to do some numbers. I'm going to buzz through these fairly quick, but let's take, for example, the average sales price in the greater Minneapolis-St. Paul area. It's about $240,000 right now. So we're going to make this assumption that this is the same house. So $240,000 is, let's say, this house. All right? And we're going to say I'm going to buy this house with a 10% down payment. That's $24,000. Means I'm going to borrow $216,000 at, let's say, today 4%. I can do way better than that, but let's just say for the sake of discussion we're doing 4%. That's going to mean I'm going to have a principal and interest payment of, it's actually $1,031 and some change, so we're going to say $1,032. But it's not just your loan. When you own a house, you've got to pay tax, property taxes, you've got to pay insurance. You want to make sure if somebody falls down, they don't sue you and get everything. So taxes on a house like this is going to be $200, and insurance is going to be, insurance is going to be $100. So that means it's going to cost $1,332 per month, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. All right, so that's what it costs to live in this house on a monthly basis. But let's compare it to renting. If you can get, I'm guessing, if we're going to use $1,500, it's just a nice number, and we're going to do this out over 5 years. So at $1,500 a month times 5 years, or 60 months, it's going to cost you $90,000 to live in that same house. Okay? By the way, if you can get a house for $240,000 for $15,000, rent it. But for now, let's say, okay, so what does this look like? What happens? What happens 5 years from now? So 5 years from now, you've spent $90,000 in the rental scenario. In this scenario, what happens? Well, 5 years from now, you're going to owe, let's see, you'll have spent, well, you're going to, first of all, let's figure out what you're going to owe. You're going to owe $195,367 roughly. So that means $216,000 minus $195,367 means that you now you have $20,633 of principal pay down. So that's equity. Okay, but it didn't come without a cost. So what was the total expense when you were living here? You had $1,332 a month, so that's about $79,000 roughly that you spent, almost $80,000. Plus you had your $24,000 down payment. So your total out of pocket is $103,000, what are we at, $920. Okay, so you spent $103,000 to own this home with the $24,000, which you have as equity, and your monthly payment, which is about $80,000 combined. But let's see what it's worth. Oh, by the way, let's make an assumption that the house, right now, the appreciation in the Twin Cities is going up about 4% a year, property increase. Let's just make an assumption that it goes up 1% a year for 5 years. I think that's a fairly conservative estimate. So what that means is your $240,000 asset now has a net value of $252,242, or you had a plus $12,000 increase. So you've got a $12,000, $242,000, plus your $20,000 worth of equity, and you've got $32 $32,875. Okay, so your $32,000 is your return. Let's divide that by the 103,900 that you spent, and it's about 33%, but remember that was over 5 years, so that's going to take us, if we do the math on this, it's going to be 5.1%. Now, not an awesome rate, but you needed to have a roof over your head. I mean, comparing this obviously to buying a rental property, if you're skilled, this is horrible. If you don't know what you're doing, you might be really happy with that kind of a return. But what are some of the other benefits of living in a home, of actually owning a home? One is stability. You know where you're going to be. You know what this payment's going to be. This is going to be the payment for the duration of that mortgage. The other thing you have is, so you're not going to have, there's no landlord in the Twin Cities that's going to sign a 5-year lease. They'll sign 1-year lease because they want the flexibility to, number one, be able to increase your rent. Number two, sell it. I mean, if the market's appreciating and the market goes up 10%, they may decide they want to take their chips out of that, put them into something else. So now you've got to move. So you've got this stability of knowing that every month you've got a place to stay. You've got kids, your kids are plugged into school, you know that you've got that sense of stability. The other thing is that, let's say that you do decide you get another job somewhere. You can rent this thing, because you can get $1,500 a month for rent on an asset that's costing you $1,300. So, you know, there's a lot of advantages. I respect what this guy's saying, I get it, but not everybody is cut out to own apartment buildings. For some people, pretty safe investment, stability, being part of a community, being in a safe environment, you know, owning a home where everybody owns homes, there's safety around that as opposed to renting in an area where everybody's a renter. There's a pride of ownership, there's just a lot of intrinsic value. Plus, I mean, in this environment, when you're getting, what, half a point on a CD at the bank, you know, it's not a horrible return. It's not a home run, but it's a pretty safe investment. Now, we can start playing around with these numbers. We add in what the actual appreciation is, and obviously these numbers are much more skewed. But I wanted to try to make this as fair and balanced as I could. So the reality here is basically you're always, this is the thing that people don't think about, you're always buying real estate. Question is, for who? In this case, I paid $90,000 as a renter to buy this house for someone else, or I paid $103,000 over this same period of time. I still have my $24,000 worth of equity that I put into it, and I've paid down, I've got an additional $32,000. So now I'm at what, $68,000 of money, of net worth that I have parked away. And that doesn't, we're not even talking about the tax deductibility of the interest and that additional benefit that I have as an owner that I don't have as a renter. As always, if you want to drill down on this more specifically and find out how, if and how this applies to you, I'd be delighted to sit down with you and talk. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day.